June 27, 1944. Dawn rose over the rolling hills of northern France, washing the sky in muted shades of pink and gold. Among the shattered remains of a small village 6 miles inland from the Normandy coast, 18-year-old Private First Class James Washington of the United States Marine Corps shifted behind a crumbling stone wall. Tucked in his pocket was something few soldiers in Europe carried, a homemade slingshot crafted from a forked branch and surgical tubing. Washington assumed his unit would finally break through the German defenses by midday. They had been stalled for 3 days. What he didn't know was that within hours, his childhood skill, something learned out of necessity in the Depression-era woods of rural Georgia, would save dozens of American lives and become one of the most improbable feats of the entire European campaign. Before we dive in, drop a quick "hi" in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. This is the remarkable story of how ingenuity and unconventional thinking turned an impossible situation into a pivotal moment in the war. Washington had joined the Marines at 17 with his mother's reluctant signature. Growing up poor, he'd fed his family by hunting small game with his slingshot, developing uncanny accuracy. Now, serving in the segregated 658th Logistics Support Battalion, he found himself repeatedly attached to frontline units when trucks and jeeps couldn't safely reach them. Captain Robert Miller, commanding officer, admitted in his journal that he was skeptical of the Black Marines under his command. But Washington quickly proved indispensable. The men call him Shadow. He appears exactly when needed, then vanishes again. 3 miles away, in the bell tower of a stone church, German sniper Oberfeld Weibel-Klaus Schmidt, credited with 27 kills in 2 days, adjusted his scope. His position was nearly invulnerable, too high for grenades, too sheltered for artillery, and offering a perfect field of fire. "The Americans are creatures of habit," Schmidt wrote. "They will try again at 0800 hours. Nothing they attempt will succeed." His deadly accuracy had frozen the American advance and turned the village into a death trap. By 6 a.m., senior officers crowded into a half-destroyed farmhouse on the American side. Lieutenant Colonel James Harrison didn't sugarcoat the situation. 17 men lost. Artillery can't reach him. Air support is grounded. We need a solution, and we need it now. Captain Miller hesitated, then spoke. "Sir, I may have something. Or rather, someone." That someone was Private James Washington. Half an hour later, Washington stood before the officers, dusty from a supply run, helmet tucked under his arm. Harrison gestured toward the distant church spire. "Private, could you hit anything in that tower from our forward position?" Washington studied the structure carefully. "Not with stones, sir. I'd need 1/4-inch steel ball bearings. And I'd need to be within 200 yards. As it happened, the maintenance crews carried exactly that size ball bearing for half-track repairs. Before sending him out, Harrison made the mission voluntary. Washington didn't hesitate. "Sir, I volunteer." At 7:30 a.m., Washington, Master Sergeant Frank Davis, and radio operator Corporal Thomas Jenkins crawled into position roughly 192 yards from the church. Mortar crews prepared a diversion. When the barrage began, Schmidt shifted to the arch facing the Americans. "Center arch," Davis whispered. "He's moving right." Washington rose, drew the slingshot to full extension, and fired. The ball bearing arced into the morning sky. According to German spotter Wilhelm Bauer, it struck the stone wall 6 inches from Schmidt's head. The impact sent stone fragments flying, one cutting Schmidt's eye and disorienting him. Convinced the Americans had deployed some new silent weapon, Schmidt panicked, knocked over his rifle, and ordered immediate withdrawal. Washington fired 3 more shots, each striking inside the tower and adding to the confusion. Moments later, German soldiers evacuated the church. Harrison ordered a mortar strike, and American troops finally captured the village. Not one more American died that day. Official reports credited innovative tactics. None mentioned a slingshot. But among the Marines, the story spread like wildfire. They called him David. 2 weeks later, Captain Miller privately told Washington that higher command refused to issue a commendation. Washington didn't flinch. "I did it because it needed doing, sir. That's enough for me." Still furious, Miller presented him with a small, handmade medal forged from scrap metal by Sergeant Peterson. Etched crudely on the surface, "The Giant Killer." Washington carried it for the rest of his life. In the months that followed, Washington single-handedly captured 2 Germans and forced a third to surrender after running out of pistol ammunition, using a ball bearing to knock a soldier unconscious at 30 yards. His reputation spread so widely that captured Germans asked about the American with the slingshot. During the Battle of the Bulge, he used damaged flares fired from his slingshot to create the illusion of an American crossfire, scattering a German patrol. Near the Rhine, he used mud-packed stones to simulate encirclement, bluffing a machine gun crew into abandoning its position without a shot fired. By war's end, Washington had commendations from 6 officers and a battlefield promotion to sergeant, but still no official recognition for his slingshot feats. Washington returned to Georgia in 1946 and founded a construction company known informally as Slingshot Builders due to the number of Marines who sought him out for work. He kept his slingshot in a wooden box in his workshop. In 1969, 25 years after Normandy, Washington finally received the Bronze Star, though the citation carefully omitted any mention of a slingshot. He simply said, "I did what needed doing. Same as every other fellow." Military theorists later cited Washington as an early example of asymmetric problem-solving, the idea that unconventional tools, used creatively, can outperform traditional firepower. Colonel Robert Miller called this Washington's principle. The most valuable weapon is not found in the arsenal, but in the mind of the Marine. Washington passed away in 1988. At his funeral, dozens of Marines attended, including 3 retired generals. His slingshot now sits in the Marine Corps Museum with a simple label, "Unconventional weapon, employed with extraordinary effectiveness." The church tower in France still bears the marks of his steel ball bearings. And Marines still leave small stones on the windowsill, tributes to the young man who proved that sometimes victory belongs not to the strongest army, but to the one willing to see the battlefield differently.